With those rising energy prices, questions are being asked. Is profiteering at play? It's something that Bord Gáid and other energy companies deny, but it was an accusation that was heard in the Dáil today. Take a look.
We are seeing across the world war profiteering on an absolutely industrial scale. Shell profits up to 19 billion, highest in 8 years. ESB profits up 617 to 679 million, up 10%. Energia profits up 46% to 35 million.
Yeah, like on that, and Charlie mentioned it before, Malcolm, but like we're looking at, Bord Gáid, as well as increasing its unit price, increasing its standing charges for customers.
Yeah, well, I think this is where the regulator needs to step in, and also be aware, that the competition authority or the competition consumer
I think they've no say in that when it comes to standing charges.
But what the various regulators have done is when reports go into them about the increases in prices, they are investigating, they are addressing it. And price gouging by anybody in any sector does need to be addressed.
Do you think it's happening?
I think there is some evidence of it happening. I think certainly when you look at the pumps, I know my colleague Barry Cowan, for instance, even made a number of reports himself when he would have observed it. And I think most people, when you talk to them, when the government moves to reduce prices, the prices don't reduce as quickly. But certainly when there's any sign of an increase in fuel prices, goes up the pumps, because you always assume people are hedging an amount that's there. It is part of a longer-term strategy, though, about energy security in Europe. That remains, and particularly in terms of how we use renewable energies, that is something that we need to address.
But again, we have the most expensive renewable energy in Europe as well, and that's a whole other issue, and I'll be raising it in the Shannon tomorrow about why our renewable energy tariffs are higher than any other country. But look, there's a range of issues. One, as I said, the instant relief, and that is around the likes of the discretionary fund that my colleague Claire Curran has called for, because working families aren't eligible for the fuel allowance and any of those other payments. But also the regulator needs to be instructed by the minister to regulate the market. And when we've had the regulator in before the Climate Committee and we've asked repeatedly, will you put a cap on the default tariff, so a loyalty tariff, if you don't shop around, you're automatically put onto a higher tariff. They said they didn't want to do that. We asked them, would they put a cap on the prepaid tariff, because they're the most vulnerable households who are trying to manage their bills. They said they couldn't do that. The reality is we need Minister Ryan to give the CRU the direction to actually intervene in the market. I mean, in Spain, they've had a windfall tax in September on energy companies. You have the EU Commissioner von der Leyen saying we need to cap tariffs. Right. So, there's a lot more that the regulator could be doing.
I want to hear from Stephen Kinsella on that. The idea first of profiteering, do you think that's happening? We're hearing an awful lot about the war in Ukraine being responsible for these inflationary rises.
Yeah, so it's certainly happening, and it's something I'm writing about in the Currency tomorrow. You see profiteering in operating surpluses of companies. So when their revenue is vastly greater than their expenditure, for no apparent reason, and you'll see this in the quarterly accounts of major companies in the next couple of months. The difference between then and now is we are in a wartime economy, and in a wartime economy, you can't allow the market to set prices for major elements like energy and other staples, because people can't shop around for these things, And in that situation, the regulator should be empowered to cap these things. Or if they're not going to cap them, we should see a very large tariff or tax applied, for the very simple reason that it's through no fault or action of their own that these companies are able to reap these supernormal profits. It's simply they're taking advantage of a precarious situation. And, you can see a situation where the government is going to go into deep deficit to help households and firms out that are struggling with energy costs. And if energy companies are making a fortune at the same time, it's logical that we either tax them to the amount that they're increasing, or in a wartime fashion, or we simply cap them at the prices again for 18 months or something like that, and then come back. We have done it several times in the past as an economy. 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 80 years ago, we did this. We're in exactly the same situation now. We should apply the same measures.